Hey guys, welcome to Gen Z Codes. In this video, we're going to be learning about quotations, lists, and comments on HTML and how we can add them onto our web page and keep the formatting, well, correct in a certain sense, right? So let's get started. First, we're going to be discussing quotation and citation elements. So we're going to go through the block quote, the Q, which is for quotation, then the abbreviation, address, citing, and the BDO, which I'll explain to you exactly what that is in a while. But basically, we're going to go through all of these HTML elements. So first, we're going to start off with the block quote for quotations. So the HTML block quote element defines a section that is quoted from another source. So browsers usually indent block quote elements, and that's how it will kind of be portrayed over here. So as you can see, the basic format of a block quote is first you have this block quote opening statement, kind of like the starting tag, and inside that tag you have cite written, and then in speech marks you have the source. So this is basically, so I've actually copy pasted a quote from National Geographic, right? It's an article in National Geographic, as you can see over here, right? So basically I've copy pasted that link to the article, and that's what I am citing over here, and that will basically be known when I'm citing it on my web page, right? So here then I just closed this tag, and what I've said is 25 years after. This is basically the quote that I've copy pasted from National Geographic, completely random one. I just copy pasted some some quote, right? And then I closed the block quote tag. I'll probably show you exactly how this is going to be displayed on a web page in a little while. So after we finish everything, I'll probably save this and then just show it to you in Safari. But for now, just know that what this block quote is going to do is it's going to take, like, if you have like a long paragraph that's a quote and you kind of want to cite it, then you can use this block quote element, and it will leave an indent as well. So before the block quote starts, so the block quote would be indented, right? Now, the second one that we have is Q, right? As you can see over here, we have Q and like the closing one for that. So HTML, so we use this for short quotations, right? So the HTML_Q tag defines a short quotation. Now, browsers normally insert quotation marks around the quotation. So, actually, one second. Right. So basically, what this Q is going to do. So again, I've copy pasted a quote from National Geographic, right? And here, what this is just going to do is it's going to put like speech marks around it, so quotation marks, and that will kind of signify that this is a quotation. All right. So the quote is "if Walter reintroduced whatever," and then it puts the quotation tag over here. Now, basically, what this means is that the quotation will only be over here, right? It will only be for this part of the entire paragraph. The rest of it will not be in quotation. So the quotation over here, what I'm doing is I am nesting it, as we spoke about this in the previous video. I am nesting this quotation element into the paragraph element. And again, we'll see how this is displayed a bit later when we actually open the web page. Alright, so the next one that we have is ABBR for abbreviations. Now, the HTML abbreviations, so the ABBR tag, defines an abbreviation or an acronym, like, well, off the top of my head, like probably like HTML, CSS, like ASAP, so like ASAP, or ATM, or even something like Mr. or Doctor, right? So like MR dot or like DR dot, whatever, right? So making abbreviations can actually give useful information to browsers, translation systems, and even search engines. So I'll actually, so this you may not exactly understand how even when it's displayed, but I'll explain this to you. So over here, as you can see, I've said in abbreviation, I've just put title is equal to National Geographic. And then here I've just put Nat Geo is a nature magazine. So what this basically does is when you're, like, as a user, when you're searching something up, and maybe you want something to do with National Geographic, right? But because I've put the abbreviation right over here, I've put Nat Geo, it doesn't exactly match with National Geographic. But when I put this abbreviation tag, and when I say Nat Geo is an abbreviation for National Geographic, then Nat Geo will be associated with your search result. Why? Because over here I've said that Nat Geo is an abbreviation for National Geographic. So then the browser will understand this, and even if you search up the full form, which is National Geographic, it will basically match my web page with your search result, and then you can access my website, which would make it easier for the user, and it would also make it much easier for the browser to give related results, right? So this is what the abbreviation tag does. And you can also do this with a lot of abbreviations, like for example, even for WHO, in case, like, obviously, like, a lot of people don't search up WHO because it just spells out who, of course, but in case you want to say WHO in your web page, and of course when browsers search it, when users search it up, they might say World Health Organization, so you can actually specify the WHO. So over here in title you can say or the World Health Organization, and then here you can say WHO, so the search results basically match up. Alright, so let's move on to the next one, which is an address, right? So this is an HTML address element, which is for contact information. So the HTML address tag defines the contact information for the author or the owner of a document or an article, right? So the contact information can be like, it could be an email address, maybe like a URL, a physical address, a phone number, social media handle, or anything of that sort, right? Now the text in the address element is basically usually in italics, and browsers will always add like a line break before and after the address element. So you may have seen this a lot of times on different web pages where you've seen like contact information given at the very bottom in like the footer. So this is kind of how you would actually do it. So in code, you would write address, and then you'd have like different things. So here it's just written by Jane Doe. Visit us at random.com, box 228, Disneyland, USA, that sort of thing, right? And so over here I've put the line break, so between each and every one of these there's going to be a line break, right? And this entire thing, you'll see when it's displayed, it'll be in italics, right? So that's basically the address thing. It's not one of the most important elements of HTML, and it's not even mandatory to use it, but it would look better if you usually have some contact information on your website in case someone needs to contact you for more information or whatever. Then you could use this address in your footer, and it would be pretty nice. So after the address, we have the site, right? Now this is for a work title. So the HTML site tag defines the title of a creative work. Now this could be either a book, a poem, a song, a movie, a painting, a sculpture, or even just a drawing, a sketch, absolutely anything. Now the text in the site element usually renders in italics, so just basically like the address, it's italicized. Now, so actually an example that I've given over here is Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh, painted in 1889. So basically, where I would kind of use this would be under an image where I want to maybe give like a small description or title, and that's where I would usually put this sort of statement, right? And now over here, because Starry Night is the title of the work, that is going to be italicized, and that's the part that's actually going to be cited, while the rest of it is just going to be in normal text. It's not going to be italicized at all, and it's not going to be actually cited. An important thing to note is that a person's name is not the title of the work, and so you usually do not cite that, and you usually don't put that in italics. So another example of where you could actually use the cite element is maybe in a general paragraph where you're talking about a specific book, right? Then you could cite that book, and you could maybe italicize the name of the book, right? So if it's like To Kill a Mockingbird or something, you may have seen that it's usually italicized. on different web pages, even when it's like an article or something, or when it's a summary of a book or poem or whatever creative work it is, you might have seen that they usually italicize the title of the work, and they usually use the cite element to do so. Alright, and the next thing that we have is the BDO element. Now this probably sounds super weird and quite funny actually, and what it stands for is actually an acronym for an abbreviation rather, for Bi-Directional Override. This probably sounds like super complicated and confusing, but it's actually really, really simple. It's a simple concept. So basically what this HTML BDO tag does is it overrides the current text direction. So usually we read and we write something from left to right. However, this is now going to be written, so whatever I put inside, so whatever content I put inside this, it's going to be written from right to left. So when it's actually displayed, it would be written as TFEL space OT space THGIR space MORF, and you basically get the gist, right? So actually you'll understand this a little bit better when we actually look at the web page, but basically what it's going to do is it's going to override the current text direction. It's going to do it in the opposite direction. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're actually done with discussing quotes. Now we're going to be discussing comments. This is actually a very simple concept, so I'm just going to quickly run by this. So HTML comments are not displayed in the browser, and if you've seen my Java videos, if you've seen my Python videos, absolutely any other programming language, you'll notice that comments are there in absolutely every single programming language. It's just that the syntaxing is a little bit different. And so you've probably heard me say this a lot of times if you've seen those videos. It's that HTML comments are not actually displayed in the browser, which means that they're not actually part of the code per se. It's not actually going to be executed in a sense. And so HTML comments are not actually going to be read completely by the browser. The browser is not going to pay attention to those comments. Those comments are more like not mental, but they're more like notes for yourself, who is the programmer / coder, and you're the one who's going to be referring to the comments. They're like small notes that you make for yourself. Maybe if you have to stop working on a program for whatever reason and you want to save it, but you don't want to forget your train of thought, then you can maybe make a comment next to a particular code and say that that this should be doing this instead, or this should be doing that instead. And maybe next time, like when you come back and you start working on it, you can remember that, oh, okay, I have to do this and I have to fix this in this way. It's just like a note, essentially. That's all the comment is. So basically how you write a comment over here is you just have so you have like the same thing, the same tag sort of thing, and you have an exclamation mark, and you have 2 dashes or hyphens, whatever you call them, and then you have like whatever comment you want to write down, and again you have your 2 hyphens, and you close it like that, right? So yeah, that's basically what a comment is. I'm not gonna speak too much about that. Now let's move on to lists. But before we do, actually, what I would recommend you to do is go and watch the video about style and CSS, because I'm actually going to be referring to that a lot while I'm talking about lists, and that's an important part for you to know if you want to understand exactly what I'm saying. So if you haven't seen that, I would recommend you to go and watch that right now before you continue on with the video. Alright, so let's discuss lists now. So HTML lists allow web developers to group a set of related items in lists. A list in HTML is essentially what it is, like, it's just a general list, right? It's very literally just a list. However, you would make a list on Google Docs or Word or absolutely anything, where you have the bullet points and then you just write down the different list items. That's exactly how it's going to be displayed on your web page as well. So you actually have 3 types of lists on HTML. The first is an unordered item list, second is an ordered list, and the third is a descriptive list. So let's discuss the unordered HTML list. So an unordered list starts with the UL tag, as you can see over here. Each list item starts with the LI tag. Now the list items will be marked with bullets, and these are usually small black circles, and this is set by default. But if you want to change them, you can definitely go ahead and change them, right? According to whichever type that you like. So there are different types of bullet points basically, and you can choose whichever you want by specifying it in the style option. So basically what this is, so I've put an H3, I've put the third heading over here. So it's not as big, but it's also not like a paragraph. And it basically says breakfast items, right? So that's what my list is about. And then I have 3 different list items. The first is pancakes, eggs, and then I have milk. Each of these is going to be represented with a different bullet point, like the same type, of course, but on a different bullet point. And it's called an unordered list, of course, because there's no actual ranking over here. There's no order to it, it's just different bullet points. And you'll understand this a little bit better. You'll understand exactly what I'm talking about once we actually look at the web page. Now, the second one that we have is an ordered HTML list. An ordered list starts with the OL tag. Each list item starts with the LI tag, just like the unordered list. Now, the list items over here, though, are going to be marked with numbers by default, right? So it's actually going to be ranked, right? It's going to be 1, 2, 3. So you might have created lists on, I don't know, like I mentioned, Google Docs or Word. And you might have noticed that whenever you create a list on those, you have different options for the bullet points. Now, you can either use numbers, or you can use like different types of bullet points, like squares, circles, discs, that sort of thing. If you're using the square, circle, discs, etc., then that's going to be an unordered list. However, if you're using numbers, it's going to be an ordered list. And that's how it's displayed on the web page. All right. Now, the last type of list that we have is a description list. So, HTML also supports description lists. Now, a description list is a list of terms with a description for each term. Now, the DL tag defines a description list, and the DT tag defines a term or the name, and the DD tag describes each term, right? So here, you'll understand this a little bit better when we actually go to the web page. But basically what this does is we have DL, so that's marking the description list. Then you have DT, which is a term. So here I have coffee. And then here, underneath coffee, I'm going to have a description for coffee, right? And it's going to say black hot drink. So it's going to be indented, and it's going to be below coffee. Then I have milk, and below milk, and like with an indent, it's going to say white cold drink. Again, might be a bit difficult to understand this one. I understand that, and that's why we're going to look at it a bit later when we look at the actual web page. Alright, so now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this code. Alright, seems a bit overwhelming, I understand that, but I'm going to explain it to you. I'm not going to explain line by line, but I'm going to tell you exactly what this entire thing does, right? So basically, this is going to make a horizontal list with CSS. It's going to make a navigation menu. Alright, so again, if you've looked at the CSS thing, you'll probably understand what this means. So the UL part, if you've seen the CSS video, I mean. So the UL part marks an unordered list, right? And basically what this says is that for the unordered list, this needs to be the style that it has to follow, right? So for the unordered list, I want the list style type to be none, right? So there should be no bullet points over here. Then I want the background color to be blue, right? So you'll see this when we check out the web page, and then you'll probably understand a bit better, right? But basically, you've probably seen those navigation menus at the top of a web page where you have like different tabs, and you can click on them to access different web pages on that same website, right? So this is creating a navigation menu for you, basically. The next thing that you have is the list item, right? So for the list item, it has to float to the left, which means that basically the list item should be towards the left. It's kind of like the indentation and formatting, so where it should be placed, like either left, center, or to the right. Then here we have the text align. Well, I'm not going to explain to you again exactly all of the lines as I mentioned, but I'll tell you the main parts as I was saying. So here we have the text part of it, right? So we have color, which is going to be white. So the color of the text is going to be white. Then we have text align. So text align is where is the text going to be inside that specific tab or inside that specific navigation menu. Where is the text going to be placed? And it says center, so the text is going to be in the center of that navigation menu. Alright. And then over here, so we close style, and here we have the navigation menu. So over here I have list, and then here I've put an internal link. Again, if you haven't seen that video, if you haven't seen the video about links, then you probably wouldn't understand this. But just a quick recap: an internal link basically links a certain part of your website to another part of that same web page, right? So maybe I could, at the top of the document, I could have something that says like I have an internal link to maybe like chapter 4 or something of a book, right? And then at the very bottom, and because chapter 4 is so down that I actually have to scroll a lot, so the internal links just makes it quicker, so I can just click on it and then it takes me down directly to the chapter 4. Again, to understand that exactly, you'd probably have to go and watch that video, but basically what this is that it's an internal link. Alright, so I have an internal link over here, and what this does is basically takes me to the home page, and that's why the links, what it shows up, like it displays home on that. So when I click on home, it's going to take me to the home page, because of course it's a navigation menu, so when I need to have like certain navigation methods and keywords for it to actually take me to a certain place. Then I have the About Us, which takes me to the About Us page. I have Donate, which takes me to the Donate page, and I have Contact, which takes me to the Contact page. Now, one thing to remember over here is that I'm just saying that it's going to take me to that place, but we actually haven't coded it yet for this to actually take me to a separate web page. And the reason behind that is that we actually haven't learned jQuery yet, but once we learn jQuery, we'll learn how to actually incorporate different tabs and different web pages into our one whole website. But for now, just know that these are internal links. It's not actually going to take you to a different web page. It'll probably just take you to another part that is linked to the home or whatever. But right now we haven't done any coding for that. So when you click on the actual navigation menu, it's not actually going to do anything. Alright, anyways, now the last thing that we actually want to do is we want to look at the web page. So let's go ahead and let's do that now. Let's look at both web pages. Alright, so now I am on Safari, and what I'm just going to do is I'm going to click on File, I'm going to click on Open File over here, and I am going to go ahead and select this one. And if you can see over here, the first part that we had was block quote. So now that, so the block quote part indented it, and this is the quote that we got, right? So the block quote just indented it, and that's how my quote is pasted. The next part that we have over here is the quotation, the short quotation that we have, which we use the Q for. And as you can see, just all it did was it just put the speech marks over here. Then the next thing that we had, was the abbreviation. As I told you, the abbreviation part doesn't actually display anything new, but it's used for searching and actually getting search results related to National Geographic. So if I search something that's related to if I search National Geographic, then because I've put the abbreviation part, this web page, despite not having maybe the keyword National Geographic, would show up. The next part is the address. As you can see, all it's done is it's italicized whatever I had written before, and it has line breaks in between. Over here, I have the citation part. I had cited, the part that I'd put in cite was Starry Night, and that is exactly what has been italicized right now. Then, I told you guys that the BDO part, which was the Bi-Directional Override, what it does is it changes the direction, right? So this sentence, when we had written in code, was this is going to be written from right to left. It's now written from right to left, basically, right? And it's the opposite direction. Next thing that we had discussed was the lists. This would be an unordered list. So I have the circle by default. Then I have the top 3 swimmers are Rachel, John, Alex. So this is a numbered list. So this is an ordered list. And then after that, this is my description list, right? So I have coffee, and it says the description is black hot drink, and basically on an indented line. Then I have milk, and I have white cold drink, and that's another indented line. And basically, actually, I told you guys that I'd probably show you different types of bullet points that you can do, but I don't want to extend this video too long now. So what I'm going to do is, in the presentation that I've linked in the description, I'm going to put the I'm going to put the names of different types of bullet points, and then you can, based on whichever you like, you can probably incorporate that in your code if you'd like. Alright, now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up the other web page, which was the one about the navigation menu, right? So this is what came up, right? We have different options over here. Like I said, even if you click them, nothing's actually going to happen because we haven't coded for that. But what this has done is it's created a horizontal list using the CSS, right? And this is all I just want to show you, that using an unordered list, you can actually create a navigation menu. And remember when I told you that the background color was going to be blue? Well, the background color is blue, as you can see over here, for the navigation menu. The text color is white, and the text align is in the center. Now, remember when I told you that it would float to the left, which means that all of these, so basically home, about us, donate, and all of these navigation menus, all of these tabs would float to the left, which it has. It's not in the center, it's not on the right, it's towards the left, right? So that's about it for this video. I know it's probably been a lot to take in, but I hope you understood each of the different aspects, and I hope you've understood what a list is now, and how you can use the quotation elements and all of them, alright? Well, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to us, and keep updated with the other HTML videos. Thank you for watching. Happy coding!